we're nearing the twilight phase of Joe Biden's administration. He's now officially a lame duck, and it's the twilight of his life. And in the lame duck session, after Kamala lost, with Biden in the final stages, he has made it clear that he personally supports Israel's genocide and that he never would have done anything different. This began, or this was made clear first in an interaction with an Israeli reporter. A majority of Jewish Israelis would like to see a deal to get their captives out of the Gaza Strip, and there are protests in Tel Aviv, shutting down highways all the time, ferocious protests. And this Israeli reporter, Neria Kraus, was speaking to the sentiments of most Jewish Israelis right now by asking Joe Biden, do you think you could maybe do a ceasefire before Trump comes into office and brings in the most Israel first administration in US history? And here's what Biden said.
President Biden, do you think that you can get a hostage deal by the end of your term?
You think you can get hit in the head by a camera behind you?
Listen to what he says. Do you think you could get hit in the head by a camera behind you? Like, what? What? He's basically wishing violence on a reporter for asking about a ceasefire, on an Israeli reporter, no less. And then, he issues a statement declaring his ironclad support for Israel. Ironclad. The commitment to Israel is ironclad. And here's him welcoming President Isaac Herzog, who has said that there is no difference between civilians in Gaza and Hamas, who's called for genocide openly, whose statement is part of, I think, the ICJ filing.
You've been an incredible friend of Israel and the Jewish people for decades. And we will never forget, ever in history, how you stood up with us in our darkest hour. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here, pal.
So there it is. I mean, he's getting his congratulations for the total destruction of Gaza, which is ongoing, with famine being confirmed by every aid agency operating there. The United Nations Independent Inquiry Commission finding Israel culpable of genocide just yesterday. And Aaron, there was a letter that Lloyd Austin and Pentagon Secretary and Tony Blinken issued before the election, which was to be released earlier this week, which had a deadline earlier this week, ordering Israel to supposedly allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza. What happened there?
Well, the deadline came and went, and Antony Blinken immediately announced that the U.S. would do nothing. That even though every aid group on the ground says that Israel is still blocking humanitarian aid, Antony Blinken said that there would be no consequences. And recall that this letter, it didn't explicitly threaten consequence. It said there might be consequences, right? So even that was an early sign that this was a toothless threat, likely timed to the campaign to for the Biden-Harris team to pretend as if they were holding Israel to account until after the election. And now the election comes and goes, and in line with their policy of this last year plus, their supposed efforts with Israel to get it to ease its siege of Gaza are completely toothless, and this is totally in line with who they are.
Yeah, and so here's Karine Jean-Pierre, White House press secretary, addressing the fact that the deadline was never enforced and that this letter was basically an election season ruse to convince some members of the Democratic Party base who are upset about the policy of underwriting genocide, that they might actually do something to end the starvation, the deliberately enforced starvation in the northern Gaza Strip, which is part and parcel of Israel's ethnic cleansing policy.
Today, there are multiple international aid agencies that say that Israel has failed to address the concerns and that the situation is even more dire than a month ago. Does the administration think that Israel has taken enough steps, or do you agree with these aid organizations and their assessment?
So a couple of things. Let me just take a look back at the last 30 days. Israel has taken steps to address the measures laid out in that letter from the two secretaries Blinken and also Austin. And we are in a discussion with the Israelis about both the important steps Israel has taken as a result of the United States intervention, as well as additional steps that need to be taken. So those conversations continue, those discussions continue. And we, the United States, is indeed the largest provider of humanitarian assistance to the Palestinian people. And so we are going to continue to do everything that we can to surge humanitarian assistance in Gaza. We understand how important it is, and in your question, we understand how dire that is. So ultimately, the long-term solution here to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people in Gaza is bringing an end to this war.
They've been saying that for months and months, along with that they're fighting for a ceasefire. They're in the, they're almost in the end zone for a ceasefire. They're working tirelessly. And now it's clear they never meant to do it. It's just confirmed. The destruction and horror that we're witnessing from Gaza is something on a scale that I've never seen. And they did it. So I don't know what could be worse from the Trump administration, at least with respect to Gaza. I'm not sad to see these people go at all. And they clearly paid a price for this. And they're still lying. They're still lying when they have no reason politically to do so anymore.
You go, but like if you go month by month throughout the genocide, it's the same rhetoric every single month. We're having conversations with the Israelis. Yes, they're not doing enough, but we expect them to. We are surging aid to Gaza. Yeah. They've used that term surge multiple times, but no aid is getting through. It's so malicious. One of the worst crimes in human history unfolding before our eyes. And yeah, I mean, for this reason alone, they deserve to lose. There's no doubt that Trump will be just as bad, but this is just one of, this is a defenseless camp. There's no air defenses in Gaza, no tanks, no air force to defend these people. And the Biden administration facilitated the destruction of the home of more than 2 million people over the last year. And they're going out the door just as they've been doing for the last year, just lying about it and pretending to care about the people that they're starving and killing. And she says there, no one's given more humanitarian support to the
They're so generous.
Yeah. No one's given more weapons to Israel than the Biden administration to kill these people. So what is she talking about?
Yeah. What is she talking about? She's reading talking points handed to her by the Biden White House because they're persisting with their lies. And let this be a lesson. Let this be a lesson to anyone else who seeks the Democratic presidential nomination or seeks the votes of Americans. This helped cost them the election.